are duly constituted with a quorum of the council, and we are ready at this time to begin. It's led by Mayor Pro Tem Jim Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Join me in prayer. Father, I just want to thank you for the freedom we have of self-governance in this nation. I thank you for our troops that are overseas. They're representing these ideals that was gained through blood, tears, through sweat of our forefathers. And I thank you for their sacrifice for our freedom, Lord. I thank you for this city. I thank you for the people of this city. And I pray you'd give us all collective wisdom as we look down the road and see what kind of government that this city should have. I pray that the people would choose your will, Father, and the thread of truth which is woven into the fabric of this nation, of your truth, Father, would be evident to each of us as we look to your wisdom, Father, for our governance. We thank you for this city. I pray your blessings upon the people, the businesses, and the families. In your name, Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, this nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We begin our council meeting tonight following the invocation and pledge of allegiance with the announcements and the events. And here tonight to make those announcements, our Assistant City Manager, Chuck Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, I'm not Fran Burns, so I'm not as attractive as she is, so please bear with me. A couple announcements for everyone to listen to tonight. We just completed our Dumpster Day 2006 this last Saturday. Events like this are a big success only because you have the involvement of your city staff and your other departments. Thanks to Public Works, the Police Department, park staff, and code enforcement. But it also, you need the volunteers, and the citizens of this community came out to assist us, as along with the Beautification Board. This was an extremely successful event, from my understanding. A total of 230 households disposed of trash, recycled tires, and computers. And I want to give special thanks to the Haltom estate, who once again offered the use of their property on Belknap so we could host this event. On a little bit unhappier note, however, we are going to join with 40 other cities and 3 counties in having a warrant roundup. This is currently underway, and our Haltom City Municipal Court and staff strongly recommend that anyone with an outstanding ticket to please stop by our court offices at 5024 Broadway Avenue and clear up whatever is on the books. This way they will avoid any risk of being arrested if stopped by one of our code enforcement personnel, our law enforcement. If you have any questions, please call the municipal court at 817-222-7773. 2 items as far as our library is concerned. The library board currently is accepting entries for their library slogan contest. That contest deadline ends this Saturday, April the 29th. If you wish to have an entry form, please visit our library portion of our city website at www.haltomcitytx.com. Another item of interest in our library, the library is hosting its 6th annual Texas Writers Month Library Writing Contest. Easy for you to say. Poetry and short stories will be accepted for this year's contest. The name of that contest is themed Stories and Silence Among the Blue Bonnets. Winners will be chosen in several age categories from first grade through adult. And please check our library portion of the city website for details. Or again, you can call 817-222-7786. That deadline is Wednesday, May the 31st, which will be next week. One of the things that comes about, pardon me?
That's next month. May
Excuse
31st.
me, I said, I meant April, but it is May.
Sorry.
And you're right, it is 1 month. But that's close. We're in the same year. Early voting is about to be upon us with the May 13th general election. The general election early voting begins Monday, May 1st, and will run through Tuesday, May the 9th. The Haltom City Recreation Center is the polling place for early voting. May 1st through the 5th, Monday through Friday, the polling will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on Saturday, May 6th, that'll be from 7 to 7 p.m. All those dates, early polling will take place at our Recreation Center on Broadway. And you do have something new this year because of the HAVA law, which is the Help Americans Vote Act, HAVA, which that means that on Sunday, the Recreational Center will be open for early voting, and that will be from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then we'll conclude early voting on May the 8th and 9th, be at the Rec Center from 7 to 7. And we're going to post these dates and times on the website because it's pretty hard to remember all those. And then the regular election will be May the 13th. Saturday, voting hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Voting on Election Day will be done by precinct. Polling places for Haltom City voters include not only the Recreational Center, but J.D. Spicer Elementary School. And then to conclude, one thing that's been dear to my heart because I've been working on this, we're going to have the grand reopening of our Seniors Center, which is at 5000 Bernice Street. That celebration will be on May the 16th. That's a Tuesday, beginning at 4 p.m., and we will probably conclude that around 6 p.m., be open to the public. And the May 16th for this year also marks the 33rd anniversary of the Haltom Senior Center. I've been working on this almost on a day-to-day basis, as our city manager knows. With that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Any questions or comments from the council? Mr. Muir, I believe you have one further announcement.
I just have one additional announcement. Last week we started our Concert in the Park series, and if anybody last Thursday night, and it was raining quite a bit Thursday night, so we had a lot of people not come. But we did shift the concert to the rec center. I just want to let the citizens know that future shifts of the concert will be at the rec center. So don't think that there's not going to be a concert happening. We will continue with it at the rec center. And on May 18th will be the next one. It's a Thursday, May 18th. It'll be Vocal Trash. And if you haven't seen these guys, these are great band. You'll really enjoy them. It's a lot of fun seeing these guys. May 18th at the Haltom Road Park or the rec center, depending on the rain.
Okay, any further announcements that need to be made tonight? Let's move then to item number 1 under report, the monthly financial report for the month of March 2006. Our finance director, Mr. Joel Welsh.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. As is customary, enclosed in your packet is the financial report for the fiscal year through March 31st of 2006. I have just a few comments that I'll make on it. I'm going to try to be a little more concise than I have been in the past, but still cover all of the meaningful things. One thing I want to talk about on here that's of particular interest is if you were looking at the sales tax report, it would look like that the sales tax payment for the latest period, which would probably, I think, correlate to February, is about 2/3 of the payment for the prior year. And you have to understand that the sales tax report is broken into two components. There is the component which is called current collections, which is the amounts that are collected 1 month, paid to the state, and then it comes back to us, and that's the payment we reflect. There's also a payment that's going on at the same time called a prior period payment. Well, for that period, when we got the $900,000, there was actually about a $394,000 prior period payment that occurred during that time that was a result of the audit efforts that had been done on our behalf by MBIA. And as I've mentioned before, they've done us a really wonderful job over the contract time we've had with them, which is going on 3 years, in that they have managed to secure for us about $1 million in prior year payments that we should have gotten. But anyway, in that particular month, we had a very large catch-up of prior period amounts. And if you took the prior period amounts out of the equation, and I analyzed them very carefully when I saw these numbers, I found that nevertheless the current period collections were a significant improvement this year over last year, an amount of approximately 20%, which I still chalk up to the same things I've chalked it up to in the past, which is a better economic situation in our local economy, coupled with the ongoing benefit that we get because of the sales tax audit and because of the beer and wine sales that were approved by the council back in 2004. So if it looks a little bit strange, there is a very simple explanation for why it looks that way. I don't expect a large prior period payment like that to occur again. And in no way does these large prior period payments affect any of the projecting that I do for year end, because I assume in all of my projections that it's not going to happen again, so that if it does, it turns into a very pleasant surprise. So, but anyway, the general fund otherwise is pretty much on target. The same trends are continuing that I've been reporting for the last several months. The sales tax is very healthy and very positive. It's offsetting some of the shortfall that we're going to have in property taxes due to those appraisal review board decisions and the roll corrections that have been done by the appraisal district. Building the inspection fees are much better than we expected. The court revenues are a little bit beneath expectations, but in just about every case where something looks like it's coming a little short, something's coming in a little over. And so overall, the revenue stream in the general fund is pretty much according to projection, and it is all likely going to exceed what we thought we were going to receive for the year. I'll keep you apprised of that each month as we go forward. On the spending side, for the most part, everyone is about where they should be at this time of year. There are about 3, maybe 4 trends that I'm watching very carefully because they are troubling to me. And of course, I continue to watch the cost of fuel, and I continue to watch the cost of parts. As I have briefed the council over this year, already we have seen higher than expected prices for fuel in spite of budgeting a large increase to try to anticipate that. And we've also seen a higher cost of parts. There's a couple of other areas I'm keeping an eye on because we've had greater than expected expenses in unemployment insurance and in our property and casualty deductible and co-insurance payments. And I have not had a chance to find out what's driving some of those forces, and I will find out for future reports, but I have just noticed that these have reached a point where they're capturing my attention because they're varying outside of the tolerance levels right now, and I'm going to have to keep an eye on those guys as we move forward this year. But that's going to be something I'm going to have to watch for in all of the operating funds, not just the general fund. I will mention that I keep watching the figures from the Weather Bureau at DFW. And according to the Weather Bureau at DFW, we have returned to more seasonal norms in terms of rainfall. And so I am seeing some of my projections in water revenues beginning to come down from where I thought they might be, but they are still tracking to be better than what we expected in the water and sewer fund. Expenses are remaining well under control there. Sewer revenues are a little below projections, but the surcharges are a little above. Like I said before, we seem to have that situation where something falls a little short, something picks up the difference, and so it's working out fairly well for us in the water and sewer fund. It's on track for a good year. We will be watching for a notification from Fort Worth Water that the Tarrant Water District, the raw water supplier, will be. We're anticipating that they will be bringing a mid-year rate adjustment on the raw water costs due to some very high utility costs that they're having, and I'm expecting that to be coming through very, very soon. and then I'll have to do something with the rates according to the ordinance which the council passed back in 2003 for dealing with things like that when they come through. But otherwise, as I mentioned, the water and sewer fund is solid and performing pretty much according to expectations. I would mention that there was I want to apologize for a little problem with the printout as far as page 19 and page 20. When you do it look at it on this computer screen, it looks just fine. When you print it on a Hewlett-Packard printer, it looks just fine. But when you print it on our system printers out here, their font drivers are a little different. And so some forecast numbers didn't show up like they should, and we will make sure that does not happen again. But otherwise, moving on to the investments, the investment portfolio is currently at a little bit over $29 million. This is normal for this time of year. We have seen virtually all of the property tax revenue that we're going to see. We do not have some debt service payments coming up for a couple of months yet. And so there's a lot of money in the bank that is going to be disappearing in just a few very short months, and the portfolio will begin to trend downward. But at this point, at least at this time, it's in good shape. We have been able to improve the weighted average yield of the portfolio, even though the weighted average maturity, that means the average time of investment, even though it's come down a little bit, the yield has come up. And that's because interest rates market-wide are continuing to rise. It makes my benchmark go up that I'm chasing. And so I'm still about 30 points behind the benchmark, but I'm going to keep chasing it. It's a good thing to be chasing that thing because that's a target, it's a goal, and I'll get to get as close to it as I can. Any questions?
Okay, thank you for your report. Councilmember Hutchison, I believe you have a comment or a question.
Yes, Mr. Welch, you mentioned something back when you were doing the sales tax collection, a 22% increase. You said you made a comment that you don't anticipate that happening. What if it trends over a number of years, though? Does that change your forecasting? I mean, if it trends up like that, does that change your forecasting?
You mean those sudden prior period or unusual prior periods?
Yes, I mean, does that change?
I keep a real close eye on those guys, and I make a deliberate effort to avoid using them in future projections because I just really don't expect them to happen.
Well, I'm talking about with respect to trends in terms of maybe affecting our investments in the future too, because that represents a good economic trend rather than a poor economic trend. Am I right in that? I mean, I thought I was right in that, but I may
On the
not
prior
be.
periods,
yes, sir.
It does portend well for the future. Now, in answering your question, because I answered your question, but I didn't answer your question properly. Yes, I do take into account the fact that when you have these large corrections, I don't use the large corrections as much as I recognize the fact that those people are going to be paying to us from now on. And so I do build into my future projections a little bit better result for the future because in the case of a business that has not been paying, that we have since found out should have been paying, I know that they're going to be paying us from now on, so I do try to keep an eye on that, and I try to account for that in the process as well.
I think that's the only point I wanted to make is that it does affect your future projections. I mean, we can't just discount that. That represents a good economic trend. Okay.
No, sir. I'm sorry I misunderstood your question to start with.
Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Joel, on the sales tax chart for the consolidated summary of all funds on page 19, I didn't get a chance to ask you this earlier, but in March, it looks to be of 2005, looked like it was about 5% higher sales tax revenue. And my question is I was wondering how much of that March sales tax of 2005 was vested in those returns from the sales tax audit that we did. Do you know that offhand?
Going off the top of my mind, if I remember correctly, the March numbers, the prior period collections from year to year was essentially the same. There was only a small variance between the two.
Okay.
And so that the differential would have been a growth.
So March was just a strong sales tax month, and we have no reason to believe that wouldn't be for this year either.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything further, council? Okay, we do need to take action on this monthly financial report that Mr. Welch has presented. I'm in line for a motion to that effect. Bill?
Move we
you-
accept.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. I recognize you,
Thank you. I just was going to move we accept
Okay.
Bill's report as given.
Councilmember Bransom.
That's for a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the financial. If you will, register your vote at this time. And it passes by unanimous vote of the council who are present. We move now to the capital improvement status report. Our city manager, Mr. Tom Muir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, tonight, instead of starting with streets, we're going to start with drainage. For the Little Fossil Creek Improvement Project, you've heard me in the last couple of months brief you on the challenges that we've had, the loss of the funding and then the replacement of the funding, and the design was stopped and now it's started again. And last month I told you how the Corps of Engineers, which is heading up this project, was wanting a letter of commitment from the city. And I had reservations about doing that until after we met with them, and I have since met with them, and I have given them a letter of commitment from the city. With one caveat, the letter does not bind us to providing additional funds for this project. As these things that are out of our control, if they've been delayed, the costs have increased, and our ability to absorb them has been extremely challenged, and I'm not comfortable saying that the city would be able to provide those funds at all. Frankly, we're probably going to Congresswoman Granger's office for help with that. But in the meantime, the design is going on. I did give that letter of commitment. The Clomar, which half has been working on the last few months, has been finished. The Clomar is it's kind of similar to like a construction permit for the in the creek, but this is something that FEMA needs to have to recognize the project. Moving on to the Big Fossil Creek project, we've had even more significant problems there. This is a COG project. It also involves the Corps of Engineers, and the COG has been receiving the raw hydraulics and the hydrology data from the Corps, and we're going to be reviewing that with the COG here later this week. The Salona Circle Drainage Improvement Project, I think it was the last council meeting, but the council has awarded a construction project for this for about $366,000. Construction commenced on April 4th and is expected to be complete by August of this year. In water and sewer issues, the Skyline Mobile Home Park / Swan Street project. This is a sewer replacement project. Swan Street's been complete, and the Skyline portion of the project is substantially complete. The contractor is currently working on punch list items. For the Highway 377 water main project, all the easements have finally been obtained. However, we're probably going to wait to do the project next fiscal year because the easements did cost a bit more than what we anticipated. So we'll have to wait for next year's funds to kick in for that project. For the Midway Waterline project, council awarded a contract for that, and the notice to proceed will be issued on May 8th, or it has been issued. The contract will start on May 8th, and that also will be finished in August of 2006. For the library, the land, there's been a land acquisition or negotiation / condemnation process that's been going on. We've come to a settlement arrangement. We're waiting on the settlement papers to be executed and filed with the court, which should take a few weeks, but pending that, we'll be at least have a site for the library. I have reinitiated a meeting with the architects, F&S Partners, to get refocused on the project and start again on that project. And I'll close with the Senior Center project. As Chuck announced earlier, we're going to have a grand reopening of that on May 16th. It's substantially complete. We have run into little snags here and there as we move in. Most recently, we found a drainage line plugged or clogged that the contractor seemingly connected a line to a knowingly clogged line. I'm not sure what the rationale for that was, but he has corrected the problem, and we continue with the move-in. So hopefully on the 16th we'll have a ribbon cutting, and the seniors will be able to enjoy their new center. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Muir?
Let me add one more thing. It's not really part of this CIP report, but the renovation, the revitalization project on Belknap. I think it's not on here yet. I'm not sure when it'll be put on the CIP, but just to let the citizens know, let the council know, the staff has issued RFQs and has received some statement of qualifications back. We've reviewed them. We held interviews last week, and we're still evaluating presentations that they made and checking references, and hopefully we'll be back in the coming weeks with a recommendation for a firm to lead us in this project.
Okay, so we've got a lot of things going on in Haltom City. The two that catch my eye, the Belknap Corridor Study and the library. So significant progress, significant steps are being taken on both of those, and we look for good things to be forthcoming.
You bet.
Any other comments on this capital improvement status report? Okay, there being none, we move to the consent agenda, and tonight that's items 3 and 4. Item 3 actually is two parts: the minutes from the regular council meeting April 10th and of the special meeting of the council on April 17th, and then the second item, which is number 4, the second reading of an ordinance about the way we calculate temporarily revising wastewater usage. So members of the council, I'm ready for a motion regarding the consent agenda. Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a motion to approve the consent agenda items 3 and 4.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Councilmember Branson.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. If you will, register your vote, please. And that is a unanimous vote by the council. We move now to item number 5. Item number 5 and item number 6 are separate, but they relate to the same subject. Our Public Works Director, David Fain, will give us some information about item number 5, please.
Thank you, Mayor White, members of the council. Mr. Pliska is at a conference this week, so I will try to get through this tonight. Before you, staff request that you conduct a public hearing and consider and or take action on approving the first reading of ordinance 2006-006-15 regarding the application of Jimmy Rust for a zoning change of Lot 35B, Block 3 of the Golden Garden Addition from the single-family 1 district to a single-family 2 district located on the southwest corner of Highland Avenue and Thomas Road, and it contains approximately 0.45 acres of land and is also known as a physical address of 5636 Highland Avenue. The applicant has requested to rezone the property from the existing single-family 1 to a single-family 2 district, which will allow the applicant to meet area requirements for 3 new residential lots. The applicant proposes to replat the existing lot of 35B into 3 residential lots. The proposed lots will meet the area requirements for a single-family 2 district. Lots 35AR and 35BR are for future residential structures. Lot 35CR will have an existing residential structure located on the proposed lot. This zoning change will not require an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning meeting of March 14th, of this year was unanimously approving the zone change. With that, staff does ask that the council hold a public hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and before I open the public hearing for comments or questions from members of the audience, I'll ask members of the council, do you have any questions for Mr. Fain regarding this request for zoning change? Okay, there being none, thank you, Mr. Fain. So I'll open the public hearing at this time to receive public input on this request from members of the audience. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak either for or against this zoning change? Okay, we have Mr. Tom Kilpatrick here tonight, who is representing Mr. Rust, I believe, and he is available. Any member of the council have any questions for Mr. Kilpatrick on this zoning change request? I believe there are not any. Is there anything you'd like to come to the microphone and say to the council at this time, or just leave it as it is? You'll have an opportunity to say something on the next item. If you've got anything to say about this particular zoning request, now's the time for you to address the council, please. And if you would, I met you earlier, Mr. Kilpatrick. We need you to come to the microphone. If you will, give us your name again and your address for our record.
Yes, my name's Tom Kilpatrick. I live at 3313 East Ridge Drive in Haltom City. And we are, excuse me. We're requesting a rezone of 5636 Highland Avenue from SF1 to SF2. And my understanding of the purpose for zoning laws is to designate a specific area for a particular type of development and to protect that area from non-conforming development. And we are asking to conform to the development of this area. If you look one block in each direction, there are 34 SF2 properties, 8 duplex properties, 2 commercial properties, and 1 SF1 property. So we are asking to conform to the area, and that's our request. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Kilpatrick, members of the council? Okay, I believe there are not. Thank you very much. I believe I asked a moment ago, does anyone in the audience wish to speak either for or against this request for zoning change? I'll ask that one more time before I close. Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. And members of the council, I'm ready for a motion regarding the pleasure of the council in regard to this request for zoning change. And if you will, Mr. Sutton, Councilmember Sutton, I believe you have your light on.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve ordinance number O-2006-006-15 on first reading.
Okay, Councilmember Hutchison.
Yes, that's for a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve on first reading this ordinance. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being none, if you will register your vote, please. And that passes by unanimous vote of the council. Item number 6 is very similar. This is not a zoning change. It is a final plat. And Mr. Fain, if you would introduce this and tell us what you're asking from the council tonight.
Thank you, Mary White, members of the council. This is actually, before you, a replat known as P00206, which basically allows Mr. Russ to build on 3 separate lots. Here again, as you're familiar, it was a plat at one time, but now this is actually replat identifying 3 separate pieces of property. The Planning and Zoning Commission did, at their April 11th meeting of this year, approve this replat. And here again, staff asked that you hold a public hearing.
Okay, this too is a public hearing. Before we open the floor to members of the audience, I'll ask the council, does anyone have a question or comment for Mr. Fain on the issues involved in this platting, this replat? Okay, there not being any, I'll open the public hearing at this time. So members of the audience, do we have anyone here wishing to speak either for or against this request by Mr. Russ to do this final plat? Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'm ready for motion from the council regarding item number 6 on the agenda. Councilmember Lanford.
Before we make a motion, I just, can I revert back here and ask the developer's representative a question on the, on lot 35AR regarding setbacks?
Mr. Kilpatrick, if you would come back up to the microphone, and I believe Councilmember Lanford has a question for you.
Mr. Kilpatrick, on that lot 35AR, that's the corner lot where it shows a 25-foot easement on two sides.
Yes,
That's on the Thomas side and the Highland Avenue side. Now, that's going to squeeze the place that you can put this house, a 1,400 square foot house, in sort of the southwest corner of that lot.
well, you have that lot is 70 foot wide,
Yeah.
and you have a 25-foot street side setback, and then
So
you
that's
have a
just
5 foot
that's
on
just
that
45.
side. Leaves you 40 feet. Most all of our houses are 40 feet wide.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, we made that lot a little bit larger for that also.
Okay.
It's 70 foot wide.
Well,
leaves us
that'll only leave you 5 feet on that west.
5. That's required.
Yeah.
That's what's required. 5
Okay.
foot. Yes, sir.
Okay, that just looked kind of odd on that corner lot. I don't know. I mean, you got a little more wiggle room in that other lot there.
Yes, sir. But typically, the houses are 40 foot wide. Even your 2,000 square foot houses are 40 foot wide. A lot of them that we build.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Lanford, I had called for a motion, and your light came on. Was that in addition to asking the question? Did you intend
I'll
to
go
make a
ahead
motion?
and move to approve final plat P00206.
Councilmember Sutton.
That's for a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this request for final plat. If you will, register your vote, please. And that, too, passes by unanimous vote of the council. We come now to the portion of the agenda that we've entitled Visitor Citizens Forum. This time is set aside for any person in the audience who has business before the council that is not scheduled on the agenda to have an opportunity to speak to the council. We do have one speaker's request form filled out tonight, and this individual will have 6 minutes to address the council in just a moment. If there are others in the audience who did not fill out one of these yellow speaker's request forms, you will have an opportunity a little bit later before we leave this item to address the council, and you will be limited to 3 minutes. Each speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter listed on the speaker's request form and must refrain from personal attacks toward any individual. If the council cannot discuss or debate any item brought forth during this section of the agenda, nor can any formal action be taken since the matters to be discussed were not posted as an agenda item in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. So, Mr. Gene Snow, you've filled out a speaker's request form, and if you will, come forward, and your address is 5719 Airport Freeway, and your subject is oil and gas leases.
Yes, my name is Gene Snow, 5719 Airport Freeway, Fort Worth. Good evening, Mayor and Council people. I'm really here just to maybe encourage the movement of leasing the 2 pieces of property that I nominated a while back. I nominated them, they were put up for bid, and the bids were open. There were 3 bids, 3 different companies bid, myself being one of them. And I'm waiting to hear who wins the bid or be brought in for communication with the council or Mr. Muir to discuss whether we want to raise our bid or who wins it. There are so many things that have to be done prior to drilling a gas well, which is what this is all about in the Barnett Shale. The plats, the acreage, the units, there's a lot of homework to be done. So as guy said time's a wasting, and I would like to encourage as fast a movement as possible by the council to let us know who wins, let us know if we need to discuss with the council whether to raise or whatever we want to do with our bids. So put it in one of our hands so that we can go forward and get a well drill for Haltom City. That's all I wanted to say, was try to encourage the faster movement of if it's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Snow, for your comment. And of course, you're aware that we cannot discuss this. No action can be taken because it wasn't posted. I can make a couple of statements of fact. Mr. Muir will be in contact with you. If you want to wait around, you can talk with him after the council meeting is over, and he can give you answers to the questions you posed to us a moment ago.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Do we have anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council at this time? Okay, there being none, we move forward to item number 7. Do we have any resignations of board members? Okay, do we have any appointments or reappointments? Councilmember Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Do got an appointment to the Crime Control and Prevention Board. I'd like to nominate Don Hudson Sr. He's applied to be on this board. I'd like to appoint him and nominate him for appointment.
Okay, we have the nomination of Mr. Don Hudson to the Crime Prevention and Control District. If you will, register your vote at this time regarding ratification of this appointment. And it's the wish of the council by unanimous vote to make this appointment. We move to item number 9, kind of unusual for us here tonight, the excused absence of council members. We do have provisions in our charter regarding attendance requirements by elected officials. Councilmember Dale Clark is not here tonight. Councilmember Chris Holcomb is not here tonight, nor was he present at the April 17th special meeting. If it is the wish of the council to excuse these absences, we can take this all in one motion. However, if you want to break this out, we can do that as well. So, members of the council, what is your pleasure? Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the absence of both councilmen tonight and the one from last Monday, the 17th.
Okay, so that's for Councilmember Clark and Councilmember Holcomb both. Okay, we have a motion to excuse. Do we have a second to that motion? Councilmember Branson?
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. If you will, register your vote at this time, please. And these absences have been excused. Well, this completes our agenda in open session tonight. And the council will move at this time into executive session as authorized by section 551.071.072, and will reconvene in open session to take action on any item that needs to have action taken on that is discussed in executive session. So the time is 11 minutes till 8, and we're moving into executive session. Okay, the time. Okay, the time is 8:37. The council is back in session following executive session.
She's right here. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking over. I'm not that.
Okay, there's no action to be taken on any item discussed in executive session, and with that, the council stands adjourned.